How's it going, everyone? Today we're drawing some feet. I was a bit sick there for a little bit, so no videos are coming out, but we're back at it. Today, well, the way I'm gonna approach these feet is just gonna. There's two of them, but we're gonna approach it in just one big shape, and we can kind of sculpt it down. So I'm getting it's like nearly like I'm drawing like a cube or like a square plane, and I'm just getting the point that's closest to me, and I can draw from there. Like maybe this foot, that's where the big toe is, and then we can find out from there where the other foot's going. Right. The first lines are just guidelines. You don't have to be so what's it called, committed to them, I suppose. I'm just using a charcoal pencil today, like I do most of the time. There it is. There, if you need the details. So again, just gonna kind of sculpt this out. Not thinking about the individual toes or anything at the moment. I will figure that out later. Now, if my voice also sounds a bit different, I think I'm still maybe a small bit sick. My ears are still a little bit blocked anyway. But I will push on. Right now, for the most part, you can really see where the feet is already. We're very, very quick, very simple lines. I'm just gonna cut into this kind of block shape that we have at the moment to get maybe a little bit more refined of where those toes and feet are going. But there's not lots of cutting to do. It's not so bad. Okay, that's okay, I think. Now I'm just gonna block out where my light and shadow is. Actually, just a little bit more here. Okay. Move these out of the way. Again, everything you put down is just in these early stages is just to help you find where you're going. Everything can be moved around or changed at this point. Let me see. There's just one big shadow shape here for the foot or for the toes. That's probably a bit smaller than what I'm drawing. And then let's get in that big toe over here. It's really helpful when you have just this kind of like one directional light. See where the shapes are a bit easier. Really lets you see the turn of the form. And now let's see if we can get these toes in without looking too off. There is 5 of them, which is good. Let's see how we can place these in. Okay, not so bad. This is a really when we work in like just doing the big blocks and sculpting forms first, you really have to trust the process, and you just kind of have to hope that all the toes fit in. Most of the time they do, or just because it's a simple shape, we can change stuff around early. We'll do the same over here. Just gotta mark out where the toes are a little bit. I'm not gonna draw or give like importance to each individual toe. I just kind of want the idea of them being there. You'll see what I mean later when you get a bit further on. If you define each individual toe, then it looks like there's kind of too much gaps in between them, and I don't know. There's not a lot of cohesion. It's the same when you're drawing hands, specifically fingers on those hands. Right, let's just throw in some shadow here. Just gonna try to keep it consistent and slightly going across the form, or you know what I mean? Okay, that should be. I think that's like all of our shadow shapes really. We can define them a bit more as we go on. And also, I'll get in the shadow of, the cast shadow that the feet are actually placing on the ground. First, they'll just be floating, which won't be helpful. And then I'm not even being, again, like, throughout this phase at the moment, too accurate. You just gotta put down the ideas for yourself. You know, I'm not putting in the exact value I see at the moment, or the exact value I even want later on. Okay, what do I want now? Do I want to define the shadows, or do I just kind of want to put in a blanket light value? Because right now we just have the white of the page, which isn't really nice. I mean, it's not the worst, but I like using the eraser recently, so I'm gonna just put in a blanket value. Okay, and then maybe I'll use the blender just to make it a bit more uniform as well. One thing to think about as well, just because we're working from a photo, you know, it kind of looks like, well, it is, I suppose. These two have like the same value and light composition, but for the drawing, I think I want to keep the further away foot a bit lower contrast. That way it'll kind of push it away from the back, like out of focus a bit compared to the foreground one. It'll give it a little bit like more, like it's a little bit more dynamic, right? So that's the palm we're gonna go in with. So I haven't used this brush in a while. This is like I think it's like a pony hair brush. I think it's really good for, you know, you don't even see the marks of the blender like you usually do, but in a way I also like the marks, so I don't know. You can already tell already as well, like I need to go darker in my darks. So the decision then is to, maybe I'll just put in, like I can still keep that as the dark. The overall value I have, maybe I'll just put in some darker areas where the form's turning. So yeah, let's go define that before we hop back into the light areas. I always try to work, you know, dark, light, light, dark, light, dark, you know, always go back and forth between both of them, because you can only really inform yourself with the other. So how are we putting down these marks? I think we're gonna go lengthways, like long form instead of short form when putting down the core values a bit more. And again, I don't have the head. I'm still a little bit sick, so maybe I won't put in too much work into this, but let's see how far we can get. It might help me somehow, you know? I want this one coming forward, so I'm gonna make this. I just made this one a little bit darker, a little bit higher contrast compared to the background we put down. I still want this one to have this kind of core value to show that there is a turn happening. But I won't make it as strong as the one in front. Okay, now I'll put down a little bit of difference in the, or like a darker value in the light area to show a bit more of a turn. And also then we can create like soft and hard edges, right? Where this is like going to be a softer turn overall compared to this hard turn we have here of the, I think it's the ankle popping out, right? Overall, I think I also want some of these toes to be a bit softer. Or like, yeah, have softer edges between themselves, so they don't have that much importance compared to, like, you know, like the big toe might be, maybe. I don't think I'm gonna get into too much details with the veins and whatnot and the individual bones we see today, but we're getting the idea of the foot at least. You know, I think also this gives, like, if you want to go into your own drawing after this can, I'm still hope to teach you like a good foundation to start off with. I think that's the, I always try to believe that anyway, I'm pretty sure most people say it, like it's the most important part of your drawing is your foundation. It's like how you start it, right? Like it informs everything else afterwards. And also, like, it's better to pretty much constantly think of the overall form than try to get into the like nitty-gritty of everything. I think I've lost like a good bit on the second foot, but I don't particularly hate it. And I'm just gonna grab an eraser and do some stuff with that wherever my eraser's gone. Here we go. It's just a putty eraser. I have no idea what the brand is. Non-Cell. I don't know if that's actually the brand name or is that just something I have in it. There's the barcode if you want it anyway. But most putty erasers are fine. If they're too hard, just warm them up in your hands and you can start messing around with them. Now I'm just gonna do an overall, I'm not gonna do too crazy with the lights, I don't think. Like I'll get kind of like a broad shape in my putty eraser, play around with that. Just kind of getting rid of some edges over here, just to make it even softer than what I've drawn. And know it's quite rough, but I think it gets the idea of what I'm looking for. I think you see the foot as like steps. You get me? Like there's a front plane here, side, and a turning away plane, and another side plane here, right? Bam, bam, bam. You need to show those turns throughout the whole thing. I'm not saying I did it excellently here, but you can kind of see it. Where are we going here? Now we can come back in. I'm just trying to make this foot come forward a little bit more, right? Maybe putting in a little bit more mark making as well. I think the mark making gives it a little bit more life as well. Maybe I could do it slightly more here. Okay, I think that works for me. I like the little marks I made. It gives it a little bit more texture and, I want to say, vibrancy. Hopefully. Yeah, I'll leave it there. I think my head's disappearing for me a little bit. Yeah, I hope this helps kind of getting you thinking about how to approach the foot anyway. And just like, I mean, this general structure I use in most drawings, but even like, where you just have 2 feet, you can still get a proper drawing out of it, right? Just add depth, especially when you're working from photographs. Think about how you can bring something forward and backward. Choose something you want to give importance to, right? We could have chosen to give importance to this and kind of less to this. It would have been a completely different drawing, a little feeling, or a different feeling of drawing. But that's up to you as an artist, and it may or may not work. It depends what you're looking for. But I think when you're looking at a drawing, especially from a photo, you kind of got to make these decisions and go with them. And like, even if you fail, you will learn why it kind of doesn't work, right? Or if you really wanted to kind of get that to work, you can think about why. Maybe your approach was wrong, but you were really committed to that idea you had in your head. You can figure it out, but you have to fail. You Yeah, you have to mess up a little bit, right? That's the hard part. Thank you very much, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.